Aliens screened human combat footage in class, then recognized their new classmate in every other clip. The academy was unlike anything Eli had ever imagined. Towering crystal halls shimmered with a light that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Alien students of all shapes, colors, and sizes drifted between rooms, some floating, others walking on 6 or 8 legs, and some even slithering along the walls with grace that Eli found both mesmerizing and unnerving. The air hummed softly, carrying the faint scent of ozone mixed with something floral that he could not place. This was a school designed not just for learning, but for learning about life in a galaxy teeming with beings that Eli had never seen before. Eli walked carefully along the polished corridor, his backpack light on his shoulders. His human legs felt fragile next to the strange appendages of his classmates. Yet he held himself straight, moving with quiet confidence, a trait he had learned from a childhood full of navigating challenges on Earth that had demanded both observation and patience. He reached the classroom door where a floating panel displayed the course title, Advanced Human Studies for Non-Humans. He took a deep breath and entered. The classroom was large, circular, and arranged in tiers like a hollowed amphitheater. The desks were not desks in the human sense, but transparent pods hovering slightly above the floor. Alien students occupied them in groups, their eyes, tentacles, wings, or other appendages poised in anticipation. Some glanced at him curiously, some whispered among themselves, and others simply stared. He noticed a tall blue creature with 6 arms tapping a complex rhythm on the table, as if measuring his heartbeat with their touch. Eli smiled politely and walked toward an empty pod at the front. A voice echoed across the room. It was melodic, yet sharp, carrying an authority that demanded attention without aggression. "Welcome, students," said Xyler, the instructor, a creature with a long neck, shimmering scales, and eyes that seemed to see through time. "Today we begin our study of humans, not just as a species, but as a phenomenon. We will observe their historical methods of conflict resolution, athletic performance, and cooperative strategy. While many humans are considered primitive by galactic standards, their adaptability and creativity have made them subjects of interest across many star systems." Eli nodded silently, adjusting his posture. The idea of humans being viewed as primitive was not new to him. He had grown up hearing humans described as fragile or slow in comparison to more technologically advanced species. Yet he knew that humans had something unique, a combination of ingenuity, intuition, and sheer persistence that often defied expectations. He hoped to show his classmates that these traits were far from weak. Xyler moved to a control panel that hovered before him, and the room darkened as a series of images appeared on a vast transparent screen. The footage began with humans engaging in combat training on Earth, sparring in gyms, practicing martial arts, participating in team sports, and navigating obstacle courses. The aliens watched with fascination, their large, multifaceted eyes reflecting the screen. At first, Eli remained quiet, observing their reactions. Some aliens leaned forward, clearly impressed by the humans' physical coordination. Others murmured skeptically, their voices a soft hum of disbelief. Eli noticed a cluster of smaller, jelly-like beings who seemed almost anxious, perhaps unsettled by the unpredictability of human movement. He could see why. They moved with a rhythm that was entirely their own, combining thought and instinct in a way that no alien physiology seemed capable of replicating. The footage continued, showing more advanced exercises, humans working together in obstacle courses that tested coordination, balance, and communication. One clip showed a group crossing a treacherous ravine using only ropes and planks, their teamwork flawless despite the apparent danger. Eli's eyes flicked from the screen to the alien students. Some were leaning back, astonished, while others exchanged quick gestures, communicating in a silent alien language. He realized they were beginning to reassess the human species, seeing them not as weak but as clever and resourceful. Xyler paused the footage. Notice their coordination and problem-solving. While they lack the raw physical enhancements of many other species, they compensate with strategy, communication, and improvisation. Humans have survived in environments that would challenge even the most adaptable aliens. Eli raised his hand slightly, and Xyler acknowledged him with a subtle nod. "Yes, human student," Eli spoke carefully, choosing words that were simple but precise. Some of these humans, I know them, they're my family. These are recorded exercises passed down through generations, demonstrating not just physical skill but human ingenuity. A ripple of surprise went through the classroom. The blue six-armed alien tapped their fingers faster on the desk, a gesture that seemed like excitement. Zyler's eyes narrowed slightly, a sign of focus. Your family, are you saying these humans are related to you? Eli nodded. Yes, and I continue that tradition. I train in similar exercises and apply the same principles. I am learning from their experiences, and I hope to contribute to this class with the same methods they used. The aliens murmured among themselves, their voices blending into a low hum of disbelief and curiosity. Humans had been studied for years, but rarely had one appeared in person who could connect so directly to the historical records. Eli felt a mixture of nervousness and anticipation. He had known this moment would come, the chance to show that humans were not just survivors but innovators. Zyler moved closer, his neck stretching slightly as he examined Eli. This is unprecedented. Having a living human with direct connection to historical performance data provides a unique opportunity. Perhaps you can demonstrate the principles your ancestors used. Eli stood and took a deep breath. He walked to a central platform where the room's lighting adjusted to highlight him without discomfort. I can show examples of teamwork, improvisation, and problem-solving exercises, he said. We can simulate situations that require strategy and cooperation rather than just strength. The alien students leaned forward, intrigued. One of them, a small insectoid creature with delicate wings, whispered to its neighbor, its voice almost a chime. This human. They might be different from what we expected. Eli smiled faintly and began the demonstration. The first exercise was simple, moving a large, irregularly shaped object from one side of the room to the other using only teamwork. He instructed the aliens, breaking down the process into clear, logical steps. He emphasized observation, listening, and anticipating each other's movements. The aliens complied, and under Eli's guidance, they found a rhythm that allowed them to move the object smoothly, despite their differences in form and function. When the task was complete, Zyler's eyes seemed to glint with approval. Humans may lack certain enhancements, but their ability to analyze, instruct, and adapt is remarkable. Observe how they create systems where none seem obvious. Eli continued with more exercises. He introduced navigation challenges that required careful communication and improvisation. He set up scenarios that tested memory, coordination, and rapid decision-making. With each activity, the aliens were visibly impressed. They began to understand that human success came not from raw power but from cleverness, foresight, and collaboration. Throughout the class, Eli remained calm, not seeking praise but focusing on teaching. He explained principles step by step, demonstrating patience and clarity that seemed unusual in a species often underestimated. His presence began to shift the atmosphere of the classroom. The aliens were no longer viewing humans as curiosities. They were beginning to respect them as intelligent and adaptable problem solvers. As the final exercise approached, Zyler paused and addressed the class. Remember, the point of these studies is not to measure strength or endurance alone. Observe the human approach, anticipation, cooperation, and creativity. We have much to learn from them. Eli led a simulation that involved constructing a temporary bridge across a chasm, using only limited materials. The aliens initially struggled, relying on instinct and known techniques. Eli guided them through a method that encouraged them to think differently, to consider alternative solutions, and to communicate more effectively. Slowly, the bridge took shape, functional and sturdy, achieved entirely through coordinated strategy. When it was complete, the classroom erupted in a mixture of amazement and quiet celebration. Aliens who had doubted the human species were now acknowledging its unique capabilities. Eli looked around at the room, seeing faces filled with surprise, curiosity, and newfound respect. For the first time, humans were not simply observed, they were understood. Zyler nodded approvingly. Today, you have all witnessed the practical application of human adaptability. This is only the beginning. Understanding humans requires more than observation. It requires participation, reflection, and openness to their methods. Eli returned to his pod, feeling a quiet satisfaction. He had not sought glory, only to share what humans could achieve. The aliens whispered excitedly among themselves, some already planning how to apply these lessons to their own species. Eli realized that he had opened a door, showing them that humans were not merely survivors, but innovators capable of thinking in ways that challenged the galaxy's assumptions. As the class ended, Eli gathered his belongings and walked through the shimmering corridors, reflecting on the day. He knew that the journey ahead would be full of new challenges and opportunities. But he also knew that he had proven something important. Humans, with their ingenuity and adaptability, could stand alongside any species in the galaxy and inspire awe, not through power, but through creativity, intelligence, and teamwork. And perhaps one day, the galaxy would see humans not as primitive curiosities, but as pioneers of thought, strategy, and collaboration. The next morning, Eli arrived at the academy feeling a mixture of anticipation and quiet determination. The memory of yesterday's class still lingered in his mind. The way the aliens had reacted to the human combat footage, the subtle awe in their eyes, and the sense that something had shifted in how they perceived his species. Walking through the crystal corridors, he noticed groups of aliens whispering as he passed, their attention lingering on him longer than usual. He knew that being human here meant being different, but he had also seen the beginning of respect. As he entered the classroom, he noticed that Xyler, the instructor, was already at the central platform. The large, scaled figure glanced at Eli and gave a subtle nod. The screen behind him flickered to life, showing more human historical footage. This time, the videos were more specialized. Humans working together in coordinated operations, not just combat but in problem-solving, construction, and exploration. Eli recognized many of the faces on the screen. Some were ancestors of his family, others distant relatives who had documented human techniques for teamwork and survival. The alien students watched in silence at first. Some leaned forward, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and incredulity. Others whispered, their tones buzzing like small electrical currents. Xyler's voice cut through the murmurs. Observe closely, note the patterns. Humans operate not just with strength, but with foresight and cooperation. Pay attention to the strategies used. Eli took a deep breath. He could feel the weight of their attention on him, but he remained calm. Today, he would not just observe, he would participate. He knew the aliens were beginning to understand, but seeing human skill in action often had a stronger impact than simply watching recorded footage. He walked to the center of the room, gesturing for the aliens to follow his instructions in a live exercise. The task involved building a model settlement in a simulated environment. Materials were limited, and the terrain was irregular, requiring careful planning. Eli guided the aliens step by step, breaking down the task into manageable parts. He emphasized observation, communication, and anticipation of each other's actions. As they worked, he noticed how some aliens initially struggled to adjust to his methods. They were used to relying on their physical abilities or instinctual approaches, but Eli encouraged them to think differently, to consider possibilities beyond their natural tendencies. Slowly, the group began to adapt. A floating creature with translucent wings found a way to balance materials while a six-legged being stabilized the base. Together, they created structures that were efficient and surprisingly elegant. Eli watched with quiet satisfaction, noting how the aliens' initial skepticism transformed into engagement and cooperation. He realized that this was the essence of what humans could teach: adaptability and creative problem-solving in unfamiliar circumstances. Xyler observed silently, occasionally making notes on a hovering panel. "Notice," he said finally, "how the human guides the group through observation and logic rather than force. This is a form of leadership that transcends physical capability. Humans have an ability to integrate diverse strengths into a cohesive solution." Encouraged, Eli introduced a second challenge. This one involved navigating a simulated terrain filled with obstacles that required rapid decision-making and teamwork. Aliens who had initially relied on instinct now had to communicate and plan strategically. Eli guided them through the exercise, offering advice on anticipation and adaptation. By the end, the group had navigated the terrain successfully, their coordination markedly improved. During a brief pause, an alien student with 6 small eyes spoke. This human seems to anticipate every possibility before it happens. How do they do that? Another alien, larger and more muscular, added, "It is not their strength, but their mind. They see connections we do not." Eli smiled faintly. Humans learn from experience and observation. We predict outcomes by understanding patterns, not just reacting to immediate challenges. It is a skill developed over generations, using trial, error, and reflection. The aliens exchanged glances, a mix of admiration and quiet surprise. Eli's words resonated with them. The practical demonstration had confirmed what the footage had suggested. Humans were not only resilient, but also deeply thoughtful in their approach to problems. Xyler seemed particularly attentive, his eyes narrowing in a sign of analytical focus. After the exercise, Eli returned to his pod and Xyler addressed the class. "Today, you have witnessed a human in action. Notice how they guide others, anticipate challenges, and adapt quickly. This is a skill set that can inspire methods across all species. Humans are unique not just in physical ability, but in their capacity for strategic thought and innovation." The aliens leaned forward, clearly engaged. Some began asking questions about human methods, about how humans trained, how they communicated under pressure, and how they maintained coordination despite differences in ability. Eli answered each question with patience, offering simple explanations and practical examples. He emphasized that humans valued collaboration and learning from each other, traits that often compensated for physical limitations. As the class continued, Eli introduced a third exercise, a cooperative puzzle requiring both logic and dexterity. The aliens initially struggled, approaching it in ways typical for their species. Eli guided them to combine their approaches, using each alien's unique abilities to complement one another. Slowly, the solution emerged. The room filled with a sense of shared accomplishment, and the aliens seemed genuinely impressed by the human approach. Xyler observed quietly, then spoke. "Humans may lack the enhancements of other species, but they compensate with ingenuity, creativity, and the ability to unify diverse strengths. Their adaptability is remarkable. It is clear that direct experience with a living human enhances our understanding beyond what historical footage alone can provide." Eli felt a sense of quiet pride. He was not seeking attention, but he understood the importance of representation. By showing how humans approach challenges, he was helping the aliens see his species in a new light. They were learning that human capability extended beyond raw strength and into areas of thought, planning, and cooperation. After the exercises, the class entered a discussion phase. Alien students shared their observations, comparing human methods to their own species' approaches. Some expressed surprise at the human emphasis on communication and reflection, noting that many species tended to rely on instinct or pre-programmed behavior. Eli listened, occasionally offering clarifications or examples from Earth traditions, family practices, and historical documentation. As the discussion concluded, Xyler addressed the class one final time. "Humans are not merely a species of curiosity. They are innovators, capable of adapting to any environment and overcoming challenges through ingenuity and collaboration. By studying them directly, we gain insights that can be applied across species and disciplines. Remember, understanding requires participation, observation, and reflection. Today, you have witnessed the first steps in that understanding." The class ended, and the aliens left in a mixture of contemplation and quiet excitement. Eli gathered his belongings and walked through the corridors, reflecting on the day's events. He realized that he had begun to change perceptions, not through force or spectacle, but through patient demonstration and thoughtful guidance. The aliens were beginning to understand that human strength was not measured in physical power, but in adaptability, creativity, and the ability to inspire cooperation. Eli smiled as he exited the building, feeling the cool air of the academy around him. He knew that the days ahead would bring more challenges and opportunities to demonstrate human ingenuity. But he also understood that his role here was important, to show that humans could stand alongside any species in the galaxy, not by overpowering them, but by leading through intelligence, strategy, and collaboration. And perhaps one day, humans would be recognized not just as survivors, but as pioneers of thought and creativity across the stars. Eli entered the classroom with a calm confidence. carrying with him the quiet energy of someone who had grown up navigating challenges that required patience, observation, and creativity. The Academy's halls were already alive with the murmurs of alien students, and today he could feel their curiosity turning into anticipation. Many of them had seen his capabilities yesterday, but today would be different. Today, they would begin to recognize something more profound, the connection between the human on the screen and the one standing before them. Xyler, the instructor, floated to the center of the room, his long neck arching slightly. Welcome back, students. Today, we continue our study of humans, focusing on advanced strategy, coordination, and innovation. Watch closely, for what you see is more than historical performance. It is a legacy of thought and adaptability. The large screen flickered to life, showing humans in more complex scenarios than before. Some were navigating intricate obstacle courses with limited resources. Others were orchestrating group projects that required coordination and creativity. As the footage played, Eli noticed subtle glances from his classmates. Some eyes widened, others leaned closer, and a few beings whispered in astonishment. But it was Xyler's expression that drew his attention most. The instructor's eyes narrowed, focusing on the screen as though seeing something he had not noticed before. The instructor paused the footage at a particular frame. Eli immediately recognized it, a young human moving with a precise and thoughtful rhythm, leading a group through a difficult challenge. His stomach tightened slightly as he realized what was happening. Xyler's gaze shifted from the screen to Eli, and for the first time the instructor's expression showed unmistakable recognition. "This human is in every clip," Xyler said softly, more to himself than anyone else. "And yet they are here among us." A ripple of murmurs ran through the class. The alien students leaned forward, their curiosity and surprise growing. Some whispered, their voices vibrating softly like small electric currents. Eli felt a quiet thrill. This recognition was not about intimidation or fear. It was about understanding and the awe of realizing that humans could achieve continuity and innovation across generations. Eli stepped forward. "These are my ancestors and relatives." The footage was recorded and preserved to show how humans learned to cooperate, solve problems, and innovate. I follow the same principles, learning from their experiences and applying them in my own way. The aliens exchanged astonished glances. The notion that one human could be connected to so many recorded instances of ingenuity and skill was difficult for them to comprehend. Yet Eli's calm presence and willingness to demonstrate made the connection undeniable. Xyler gestured toward the exercise area. "Let us test this in practice. If what you claim is true, you can guide this class through exercises that reflect the principles in these historical records." Eli nodded. He moved to the center of the classroom, where a simulation environment awaited. The first task involved creating a safe passage across a simulated terrain filled with obstacles. Eli instructed the aliens step by step, emphasizing communication, observation, and strategy. Initially, some struggled, relying on instinct or brute strength. Eli guided them gently, encouraging adaptation and problem-solving. Slowly, the group began to function cohesively, combining their unique abilities in ways they had not attempted before. As they completed the exercise, Xyler's voice carried across the room. "Notice the method of instruction, the anticipation, and the integration of diverse skills. Humans do not rely solely on physical prowess. They excel by creating systems that leverage the strengths of all participants." Encouraged, Eli introduced a second challenge. This one required the aliens to solve a complex puzzle that demanded coordination and creativity. They were initially hesitant, unsure how to proceed. Eli demonstrated a methodical approach, breaking down the task into logical steps while allowing each alien to contribute according to their abilities. Slowly, the puzzle began to take shape. Pieces that seemed unrelated were connected, and solutions that appeared impossible emerged through collaboration. The aliens were visibly impressed. A winged creature with delicate, translucent membranes hovered above, guiding pieces into place with precise motion. A multi-legged alien stabilized the structure, while a small, floating being coordinated movements with careful timing. Together, under Eli's guidance, they achieved what had seemed impossible. Xyler's eyes gleamed with approval. "Humans have a unique ability to unite diverse strengths. Their ingenuity lies not only in individual skill, but in creating harmony among differences. Eli then proposed a third exercise, one that combined problem-solving with navigation. The challenge involved moving resources across a simulated environment, overcoming obstacles that required adaptation and coordination. The aliens initially relied on familiar techniques, but Eli encouraged them to experiment, communicate, and anticipate each other's actions. Gradually, their approach shifted from instinctual to strategic, and the exercise was completed successfully. During the activity, one alien whispered to another, their voice a soft vibration. "This human seems to foresee every move before it happens." "How is this possible?" another replied. "It is not just prediction, it is understanding and preparation. Humans think differently than any species I have encountered." Eli smiled faintly. "Humans learn from history and experience. We anticipate outcomes by recognizing patterns and adjusting accordingly. It is a skill passed down and refined through generations." The aliens exchanged thoughtful glances, clearly impressed. They began to ask more questions, not just about the exercises, but about human methods and philosophy. Eli answered with patience, explaining how humans value collaboration, observation, and learning from mistakes. He emphasized that humans succeed not by overpowering challenges, but by understanding them and responding intelligently. As the class continued, the atmosphere shifted. Aliens who had initially been skeptical now showed genuine curiosity and engagement. They began to see humans as more than historical oddities, recognizing the subtle genius in problem-solving, coordination, and creativity. Eli guided them through several more exercises, each designed to highlight different aspects of human strategy and teamwork. By the end of the session, it was clear that perceptions had changed. Aliens who had doubted the human species were now acknowledging its unique capabilities. Xyler addressed the class, his voice carrying both authority and admiration. "Today, you have witnessed the application of human principles in practice. Notice how strategy, cooperation, and innovation can surpass physical limitations. Humans are not merely survivors, they are creators, thinkers, and guides. Learning from them offers insights that can benefit all species." As the aliens departed, Eli gathered his belongings and walked through the shimmering corridors of the academy. He felt a sense of quiet satisfaction. Today had confirmed that humans could not only survive but inspire, teach, and lead through intelligence and strategy. His presence had begun to change minds, showing that human ingenuity was a force to be respected and understood. Eli reflected on the day's events, recognizing that the journey ahead would continue to challenge both him and his classmates. Yet he was confident that humans had much to offer the galaxy, not through force or domination, but through creativity, collaboration, and the ability to unify diverse talents. He realized that by demonstrating these principles, he was helping the aliens understand a truth that went beyond history. Humans could shape ideas, strategies, and outcomes in ways that were profound and enduring. As he exited the academy into the cool, sparkling light of the morning, Eli knew that the recognition he had glimpsed today was only the beginning. The aliens had seen his connection to the historical footage, and in that recognition lay the potential for a deeper understanding of human capability. The days ahead promised more challenges, but also more opportunities to show that humans could inspire, innovate, and lead with intelligence and grace. In the quiet strength of his steps, Eli carried the legacy of his species, ready to share it with the galaxy one thoughtful action at a time.